I would just say, Jade, is there any way that there's maybe like somewhere you could kind of put the camera up a little bit?
Like higher like this? Yeah. Let me get I have like a little stand thing.
Or like some books, either.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. You know, when I was
switch
living
this
in
side.
Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, you know, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge
that's
and
a little bit.
folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. You know, when I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it. Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. You know, when I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, you know, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in order to become successful. So then what? Those entrepreneurs, those successful businessmen and women are speaking the same language as our students. So now our students are saying, wow, this is somebody who is successful in spite of. This is somebody who persevered and pressed through in spite of. So now I no longer have any room for excuses. I have no room to hesitate or to be unsure or lacking in confidence about my skills and talents and abilities, or think that somehow I won't make it because of external circumstances that are beyond my control. Because these people made it through, I made it through, and I had a tough life growing up.
I could tell you the stats. I could tell you the numerous studies that show that if you are quote unquote low income, that without the support of an adult mentor, it doesn't matter how great the education is, you're probably not going to get ahead. I could do all that. But I think it's life experience, and anybody watching this, I think you know that it's the relationships you have that drive you forward in life. And when you have an adult that cares about you, that is willing to listen to you and allow you to make mistakes and even encourage it, that is liberating and that is life-changing. So I think mentors are powerful asset to build, and in many ways, if there were a two-sided coin, I would say there'd be one side of that coin.
Mentoring at Build is an incredibly rewarding experience. Our mentors come from a variety of backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, aspirations, all in an effort to give our students that network of support system. Whether that's with their pitch competitions, getting their business ideas, they give them, professional advice, but also sometimes students just need support outside of the classroom, someone to talk to vent to. That's what our mentors provide, is genuine connection. And that's actually what the heart of our program is through our mentors and our students and our teachers. That connection is what helps our students to grow.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. You know, when I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago. Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, you know, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in order to become successful. So then what? Those entrepreneurs, those successful businessmen and women are speaking the same language as our students. So now our students are saying, wow, this is somebody who is successful in spite of. This is somebody who persevered and pressed through in spite of. So now I no longer have any room for excuses. I have no room to hesitate or to be unsure or lacking in confidence about my skills and talents and abilities, or think that somehow I won't make it because of external circumstances that are beyond my control. Because these people made it through, I made it through, and I had a tough life growing up.
I could tell you the stats. I could tell you the numerous studies that show that if you are quote unquote low income, that without the support of an adult mentor, it doesn't matter how great the education is, you're probably not going to get ahead. I could do all that. But I think it's life experience, and anybody watching this, I think you know that it's the relationships you have that drive you forward in life. And when you have an adult that cares about you, that is willing to listen to you and allow you to make mistakes and even encourage it, that is liberating and that is life-changing. So I think mentors are a powerful asset to build, and in many ways, if they were a two-sided coin, I would say they'd be one side of that coin.
Mentoring at Build is an incredibly rewarding experience. Our mentors come from a variety of backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, aspirations, all in an effort to give our students that network of support system. Whether that's with their pitch competitions, getting their business ideas, they give them, professional advice, but also sometimes students just need support outside of the classroom, someone to talk to vent to. That's what our mentors provide, is genuine connection. And that's actually what the heart of our program is through our mentors and our students and our teachers. That connection is what helps our students to grow.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly, really, really important here in the District of Columbia. When I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in order to become successful. So then what? Those entrepreneurs, those successful businessmen and women are speaking the same language as our students. So now our students are saying, wow, this is somebody who is successful in spite of. This is somebody who persevered and pressed through in spite of. So now I no longer have any room for excuses. I have no room to hesitate or to be unsure or lacking in confidence about my skills and talents and abilities, or think that somehow I won't make it because of external circumstances that are beyond my control. Because these people made it through, I made it through, and I had a tough life growing up.
I could tell you the stats. I could tell you the numerous studies that show that if you are quote unquote low income, that without the support of an adult mentor, it doesn't matter how great the education is, you're probably not going to get ahead. I could do all that. But I think it's life experience, and anybody watching this, I think you know that it's the relationships you have that drive you forward in life. And when you have an adult that cares about you, that is willing to listen to you and allow you to make mistakes and even encourage it, that is liberating and that is life-changing. So I think mentors are powerful asset to build, and in many ways, if they were a two-sided coin, I would say they'd be one side of that coin.
Mentoring at Build is an incredibly rewarding experience. Our mentors come from a variety of backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, aspirations, all in an effort to give our students that network of support system. Whether that's with their pitch competitions, getting their business ideas, they give them, professional advice, but also sometimes students just need support outside of the classroom, someone to talk to vent to. That's what our mentors provide, is genuine connection. And that's actually what the heart of our program is through our mentors and our students and our teachers. That connection is what helps our students to grow.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. When I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in order to become successful. So then what? Those entrepreneurs, those successful businessmen and women are speaking the same language as our students. So now our students are saying, wow, this is somebody who is successful in spite of. This is somebody who persevered and pressed through in spite of. So now I no longer have any room for excuses. I have no room to hesitate or to be unsure or lacking in confidence about my skills and talents and abilities, or think that somehow I won't make it because of external circumstances that are beyond my control. Because these people made it through, I made it through, and I had a tough life growing up.
I could tell you the stats. I could tell you the numerous studies that show that if you are quote unquote low income, that without the support of an adult mentor, it doesn't matter how great the education is, you're probably not going to get ahead. I could do all that. But I think it's life experience, and anybody watching this, I think you know that it's the relationships you have that drive you forward in life. And when you have an adult that cares about you, that is willing to listen to you and allow you to make mistakes and even encourage it, that is liberating and that is life-changing. So I think mentors are powerful asset to build, and in many ways, if they were a two-sided coin, I would say they'd be one side of that coin.
Mentoring at Build is an incredibly rewarding experience. Our mentors come from a variety of backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, aspirations, all in an effort to give our students that network of support system. Whether that's with their pitch competitions, getting their business ideas, they give them, professional advice, but also sometimes students just need support outside of the classroom, someone to talk to vent to. That's what our mentors provide, is genuine connection. And that's actually what the heart of our program is through our mentors and our students and our teachers. That connection is what helps our students to grow.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. When I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 2018, 19, 2021, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in order to become successful. So then what? Those entrepreneurs, those successful businessmen and women are speaking the same language as our students. So now our students are saying, wow, this is somebody who is successful in spite of. This is somebody who persevered and pressed through in spite of. So now I no longer have any room for excuses. I have no room to hesitate or to be unsure or lacking in confidence about my skills and talents and abilities, or think that somehow I won't make it because of external circumstances that are beyond my control. Because these people made it through, I made it through, and I had a tough life growing up.
I could tell you the stats. I could tell you the numerous studies that show that if you are quote unquote low income, that without the support of an adult mentor, it doesn't matter how great the education is, you're probably not going to get ahead. I could do all that. But I think it's life experience, and anybody watching this, I think you know that it's the relationships you have that drive you forward in life. And when you have an adult that cares about you, that is willing to listen to you and allow you to make mistakes and even encourage it, that is liberating and that is life-changing. So I think mentors are a powerful asset to build, and in many ways, if they were a two-sided coin, I would say they'd be one side of that coin.
Mentoring at Build is an incredibly rewarding experience. Our mentors come from a variety of backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, aspirations, all in an effort to give our students that.
Hello, welcome back to our Build live stream. We are so excited to have you here again today. Today, we will have the second of our Build Basics of Branding with Adobe series. We had an amazing live stream this last month that included some of our Adobe team, and we really talked about how this Basics of Branding curriculum came to life. Today, we have two special guests that were also on the co-designing side of this incredible curriculum. So we have two of our Build alumni and youth fellows who actually co-designed the Basics of Branding with Adobe and with okay. And so what we're going to do is we are going to be talking to them about how they co-designed their experience, and we're really just going to meet them as the amazing, incredible people they are. So today we are going to be talking with Jade Gilliam and Sonali Gupta, and they will share their experience. So we'll just start by jumping into the youth introduction. So I'll start with you, Jade. Thank you so much for coming today. Would love to just hear, who you are. Tell us a little bit about your Build experience, but also just tell us, your passions, what you're studying now, any favorite stories of Build or even code design. So really leave it up to you to just paint the picture of who's Jade.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jade Gilliam. I'm currently a sophomore in college. I attend Chapman University. So on my shirt, I'm in Dodge College. I'm studying film and TV production, emphasizing in cinematography. I've been in Build for about 3 years, and it's been really great. I've been able to meet so many great people and just be a part of a community as well as meeting people. It feels like a community because it's usually the same people and it's more, honestly, it's just more people. You just build and build, And I am from Los Angeles, California, Inglewood to be specific. I moved around from Ohio, New York, Fresno. So I have a pretty broad background. So that's why it's really fun for me, when in Build, because I just feel like from different perspectives and different schooling programs I've been in helps me get feedback and just hear others and understand where they're coming from. One of my favorites of Build was probably doing ed tech because it felt so I was able to connect with it because it was like we're talking about AI and like how like, you know, how it affects you, how it helps you and like the problems and how to like use it during school hours, like when it's appropriate for teachers. Just giving feedback on that was really fun. I felt like tools like IXL personally were very helpful for me, but I did feel like there were like times where it was abused a little too much and we weren't learning as much in the classrooms. So that was like fun to talk about and discuss and just hear other people's experiences with that. I also feel like Build itself has just given me a platform to like speak how I feel because I went to a public school for high school, and my public school wasn't as well resourced as like private schools or like even some charter schools. So it was nice hearing that other people experienced that as well. It wasn't just like I was alone because when I got to college, I felt a little unprepared. So it's just great to be able to get a chance to like help others with their schooling. Be some change. Thank you.
I love that. And Jade, can you tell me what was your build product when you were back in entrepreneurship?
My build product?
Yeah.
Oh, and the recent one with the Adobe. We like
No. Just like your first build product when you were back in the students as a student.
My first build product. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. I remember it was a 6-week program, and we did like honestly, I kind of forgot because it was like a really long time ago for me. But I do remember being in like groups and doing like breakout rooms. I'm like getting more memory as I go. But
we'll
I'm sorry.
If you remember,
yeah,
don't worry.
I'll probably remember it. I remember the more recent ones. It's kind of harder for me because it was like
there's so many.
It's like it was a lot. I did like about 5, and like there were some that were like 4-week programs, 4 to 6 weeks. It would be like once a week, every Friday. I remember that. It was every Friday.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jade, for kind of painting the picture. And we're going to also turn it over to Sonali. Gupta, please introduce yourselves. We're so happy to have you here. And just kind of, again, passions, build experience, any favorite stories. Tell us who Sonali is.
Yeah, so great to be here as well. My name is Sonali. I am currently a sophomore in college. I go to UT Austin and I'm a finance major. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, living in Austin for the 4 years that I'm here. And I guess a little background on me and my experience with Build. I joined Build about 2.5 years ago as a high school senior. Have done tons and tons and tons of fellowships and very cool activities and work with amazing companies during my 2.5 years. So I'm very, very grateful to be part of an organization like this. I think a little bit of background on me is when I was growing up, I went to only public high schools, but I actually came from like a relatively strong public school system in my city. And so we didn't actually have the build program within my school. And so when I had the opportunity to kind of join the fellowship in a more virtual environment and connect with students across the country, and it was just such an amazing experience because I think kind of like Jay mentioned, I think she came from like an under-resourced school, and that wasn't my experience. But I feel like that is something that I bring to Build is that perspective. And I think working with other students and really seeing their different perspectives and backgrounds helps us really make the best product possible for Build and these companies that we work with. And so I think my background definitely helps and goes into Build a lot. I've done so many fellowships, like truly, I think my favorite thing that I've done with Build was I got to go to a convention in Atlanta, and me and 3 other youth fellows got to present the process of co-designing that we use here in Build to really show teachers and administrators how they can use this process to directly solve the problems that they're seeing in their school. And so I think it was amazing. It was very interactive. I feel like everyone left being like, I know how to really solve the problems that I'm seeing every single day in my classroom. And I think it was very, very rewarding. That was probably my favorite thing I've ever done with Build. That's about my background. Some of my interests are huge fan of sitcoms, huge fan of beaches, and the biggest fan of Texas football. That's a little about me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sonali, for sharing, especially the teaching with teaching educators. That's an amazing experience, and so excited to potentially hear more about that today. I would love to talk, bring us back. I know you guys have had so many different build experiences, but today we're actually going to talk about a specific one, which is when you two were part of co-designing the basics of branding with Adobe, our newest curriculum, the Fambiz Expansion Pack, and the CEO simulation game for Build. So we are so appreciative. You two were really part of giving feedback for making the game what it was and what it is today. So first of all, just a reminder for all of our audiences, Basics of Branding with Adobe is really an interactive lesson that's integrated into Fambiz CEO simulation game, another one of Build's curriculum. The point of it is that it goes through a lesson, a full curriculum. It can be really taught for teachers in as little as 60 minutes, so one class period, but it can go up to a week of curriculum with all the design basics that the students are going to be learning. The curriculum you start, the students are going through experiencing what branding is to them first. That's one of my favorite parts. They're really looking at it. They're saying, what's a brand? What's my own brand? So they're really looking at what identity means. That's kind of how it starts. They watch a couple of videos with our amazing builder, Anthony. He talks them through kind of what is your personal brand. Then the students reflect on what is their brand. Then it goes into what really is a brand. They talk about marketing. The lesson goes on. There's a lot of knowledge base in different types of brands, different kinds of icons, logos. The students are really learning the knowledge in the main content of the feature. And finally, at the end, we are introduced to Wezi, which is one of our Adobe main influencers that talks a lot about how to then make a brand with Adobe Express. And that's where the students are then introduced into Adobe Express, where they are getting a template for either an ad or a logo that they can have a template to start, but then they really are thrown into their own imagination in the world of Adobe Express, where they're really designing the ad or logo for their own cookie company. The cookie company is where Fambiz simulation comes in. Again, they've already gone through this designing their own, they've already gone through the simulation of being a CEO of the cookie company with the Fambiz simulation game. Now they're the creative director of that same company, where they're actually designing the ads and logos to advertise for their entrepreneurship, which is from the Fambiz simulation. So this entire experience was amazing to be built. It was built by the Build and Adobe team, and then Sonali and Jade were able to come in. They were really testing it out. They were giving their feedback, and they were able to really make it 20,000 times better because they really had that student voice. They had that youth voice, and they understood the perspective of where the youth are going to be coming from. Jade and Sonali, I'm going to start with Jade. I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this. What did you think about the basics of branding with the Adobe lesson? First of all, can you kind of share your favorite part? We walked through it a little bit, but what really stood out for you? And then also, what was it like to co-design the lesson instead of just completing it? You were tasked with make this better. This is in this testing phase. So would love to hear, your first thoughts about the curriculum in general, and then what was it like to help be part of that co-design? So Jade, first, if would love to hear your thoughts.
It was honestly really so much fun because I'm already in the film school realm. So it was really fun to get to do some what is it called? PR-ish type vibes, because I've always wanted to dip my hands into that. I wanted to minor in that, honestly. So it was fun to get to have a little mini lesson without having to do it at school. I don't know. It felt really cool. My favorite part though was when they had us like guess the brand based off the color, it was like that was really fun. I remember I put they should add more of those into the course because that was like really fun and like I think it gets you thinking and there's more interactive because like that's like a part of my those are all like part of my generation, so it was engaging. So it was like fun. It was very Gen Z coded, I felt like. Also, I like when they asked us questions about like our personal favorites. So then we got to like reflect and think, and it was like we're like in a classroomish, like they're asking us a question. Because I like learning in person. So it was fun to get to like give like talk to my computer a little bit, I guess. And then I would say another part I really liked was making my own cookie flyer, my cookie brand flyer. That was really fun because I got to like I never used Adobe for real before. So like I only use like the editing software, like Premiere Pro. So it was fun to like use that part because I see like my roommates do it all the time because they're in like PR and ad. So I got to like see that part. So it was fun just building it and it was just like very creative and it's already what I'm into. Fun. Like this will be great for someone who doesn't have any experience like in that realm at all. So it's like I feel like that's really good for high schoolers though, personally, because a lot of them are just like I feel like a lot of high schoolers are taught to like do the same, like go into the same field. Like personally, me in high school, I didn't get any exposure of film or, you know, business or entrepreneurship as much as like I would get nursing or like health. Like all the health stuff is more promoted. I feel like in high school than later.
I
Definitely.
love that. I agree completely. And Jade, you were just talking about some of your favorite parts of the curriculum. What was it like? That second part of the question, thinking about how you were actually co-designing, you were giving your feedback. You said a little bit about what feedback you were giving. How did it feel to actually be co-designing and not just completing it?
It felt like I felt very like what's the word? I felt more encouraged to do it rather than just like, oh, this is what it is. It felt like encouraged. It made me want to do it. Like working with them, it gave me more like encouragement. Yeah. It was like a more of a spark than like it being boring. So that's why I was like, okay, this is fun. And this is actually a good software. And yeah, basically it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you're definitely encouraged even more when you know that you are the one building something as well. So I love that. Sonali, what do you think? Some favorite parts of the curriculum and also how did it feel to co-design?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, similar to Jade, I had never used Adobe before this, so it was a very interesting experience. I think overall, the reason I liked the lesson a lot was because it wasn't just about like learning how to use Adobe or learning how to design things. It was more so let's learn the background of branding, let's learn why this is important, and then at the very end, you're going to try it out on your own. And so I really liked the lesson behind it. I never got a lesson like this in high school or like any point in time or even college. And I think it's really, really important to understand something like this because it's something that you touch like every single day. Like every company you know, they're very intentional with their branding, right? And so I think really understanding what they're trying to say and how exactly they have really created this brand that we know and love today is really important when you're trying to do it on your own, right? So I really liked that. I think a lot of the videos and real life examples that were embedded into every single section of the lesson were super, super important because I think that connection is really important. Let's understand our favorite brands so we can build something like that. I think, yeah, that was probably my favorite experience was just really getting to actually understand these things that I interact with on a daily basis before actually doing the assignment and using Adobe. And I think similar to Jay, like I love the Adobe assignment. I had never used it. And I think that it was definitely very, very easy to use. It actually reminded me a lot of Canva. That is something that I use more on like a daily, not like a daily basis, but more regularly than Adobe. So it definitely, I think that those kind of skills supplemented with the lesson behind the Adobe experience was really helpful when I actually started like building this flyer on my own. I think overall, in terms of how this is like kind of useful, I think um, creating a brand and like entrepreneurship is at the core of, Build. And for me, I'm actually a part of a social entrepreneurship organization on campus. I actually went through the process of kind of building an early stage social venture. And I actually did create like a logo for it. And I didn't use Adobe because I didn't know that was a thing at this time, but I definitely could go back and make a much better one now than the original one. So I think it is useful in literally anything you do because even like classes and group projects, I think design is like super, super important.
Incredible, Sonali. And I know that you talked again a lot about your favorite parts. How did you feel when you were diving in there and started to give some of your feedback for the co-design piece? How is that different than just going in and completing it?
Yeah, I think it's like a few things. Similar to what Jade said, I think it did feel like very encouraging. Like you want to really take notes and understand the depth and really the background of like everything that this lesson is supposed to teach you to be able to really understand how exactly you can improve it from within. I felt like a lot of times I try keeping like that consistent mindset of like, what are we trying to learn from this lesson? Are we trying to learn how to use Adobe? Are we trying to understand branding? Are these like goals being met? And I think being a part of the co-designing process, those were some of the thoughts that were like on my mind throughout the entire lesson. I think it really provides a much different perspective when you're actually going through the lesson because it's not just let me answer these questions, let me like get through this as fast as possible. It's like evaluating this lesson at every single step. And so I loved being able to co-design it. I think something that I'm probably going to mention a lot during this meeting is like perspective. That's super, super important to me. Just like Jay's perspective is going to be different than my own. I think for me, having the perspective of number one, being a student, and number two, co-designing and really having to evaluate it differently than if you're just going through the lesson and trying to learn the material is super important. But I think that's what I love so much about co-designing.
Amazing. Yeah, Sonali, I agree. I mean, everyone's perspective is different. That's why we need so many kind of different options, different thoughts, and different opinions. If Sonali, Jade, both of you have completely different perspectives, and we need both of them to make the product even better. And Jade, I think you were going to say something, add something to what Sonali said.
Yes, I just like thought about it because I know I was missing one more thing. One thing I really loved is how they made us like break down who we are first when building our own thing because it's like every brand has a little bit of the owner's self in it. And I feel like it's important to put yourself in all your work. And so it gave a really good life lesson at the end of the day for students, especially learning young. If like for high schoolers, like it's good to like, try to like see who you're growing up to be, like what you're into and like really write that down and like how you would put that into your work. So I think that was a really good like life lesson-ish type vibe that I really loved and enjoyed.
And Jade, I agree completely. That's actually one of my favorite parts about the curriculum as well. Just starting with, brand starts with yourself, identity starts with yourself. And I think that's also, like you said, like very much an entrepreneurial mindset, thinking about, what your company is going to be. And that starts with, who you are. So I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for those amazing opinions. The next question I have is just, can you share one specific idea or piece of feedback you gave to improve the lesson? So kind of name that problem you identified and then name a solution that you came up with. Jade, I'll start with you.
I know I said this a little earlier, but this was genuinely the only problem I seen was just having more identifying other brands. I feel like that would really be like, it would be really a good add-on because it was like two. I feel like we did two of them. I know it was like, what color is this brand? Like is it Starbucks or like T-Mobile, something like that. So I feel like having more of those will be really fun because it's like a game within, and it'll give you like a break from talking about yourself, if that makes sense, just to like have a little fun game. in it. So I feel like that one will really be good. Just adding more of those. Like I know they did, I feel like they did shoe brands, if I'm not mistaken. But if they didn't, maybe that'll be a good one. Or just, I know they did food brands. So like stuff like that will be fun. Just like branding, listing them different ways, like playing around with that will be good. It will be a good asset. Because everything else was honestly really great. Like all the questions were good. They weren't like too deep. Like, it was just
amazing. No, I think the suggestions that's what's great. That's what makes it so much better. So Sonali, what was something that you thought of when you were, again, maybe it's not a problem, but just like a suggestion on making it better?
Yeah, so I mean, I thought that the content portion of the lesson was really, really fantastic. My feedback was more so on the fact that I think some sections felt like really long while others felt really short. And I think diving a little bit deeper into that, what I found for some of the sections were that a lot of the questions felt pretty repetitive. I think there were like quite a few short answer questions throughout the lesson, which is great. But I felt like sometimes they felt a little repetitive to me, and maybe it's also good to throw in a little bit more multiple choice because I wasn't really sure how much I was supposed to be writing on these short answer questions either. And so I think that was kind of a specific thing that I was like, this can definitely be improved upon. And I think going about how to improve upon it goes back to what I said earlier. I think something that I kept in mind throughout the entire lesson was, what is the problem or lesson that we're really trying to teach here? It's about branding. It's about using Adobe, right? And so when you kind of just think about how to maybe make things a little bit more concise and maybe make sections a little bit more equal, it's just what is the exact problem that we're trying to address with this specific section, and how can we do that in the most efficient way? And I think by making it super, super clear, I think throughout the entire thing of this is what our goal is and this is what we're trying to get across is kind of the best way to go about making those minor tweaks. But I think overall the content was fantastic. I truly felt like it was very easy to learn, and it was also very relevant information that flowed really well to connect to like the end product and the end goal.
Amazing. Yeah, I know, Sonali, you've talked a little bit about how you really liked the content, kind of learning about all the branding, that knowledge-based content, and then coming right into Adobe Express. And both of you have talked about how this was the first time that you ever used Adobe Express, and it sounds like you're eager to use more. So just curious, how did that feel? I mean, when you were popping into Adobe Express, I think one thing that is great about Adobe is that, especially the Express, and Jade, you talked about using Adobe Premiere Pro. I know Adobe Premiere Pro is a little bit more for professionals, where Adobe Express is a little bit more you can dive in and really like get into it in a couple minutes. So just curious on your first perspectives of Adobe Express, especially since this was the first time for both of you. And how was that first experience of design with that new platform at the end of this curriculum? Jade first.
I feel like the software was very easy to use. I feel like a lot of it was like easy to play around with, finding where the colors, the fonts, and everything is. That was really fun. I also like learned how to search up extra like shapes and stuff on the side handle. So I feel like it was very informative enough to where I would be able to understand it like as when I get out of it. And I could also refer back to like the tutorial. So I feel like the tutorial was really great because I was like able to use that in struggle. I didn't even have to go back, honestly. I was like, okay, I kind of get this. And then also I feel like what Sonali said, using Canva so much, it's kind of like, okay, like you kind of already know where everything should be. So I just feel like, yeah, it was pretty easy. It was really fun though, honestly, genuinely. I will use it again. I probably will be using it again.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's a great platform. Sonali, what were your first thoughts on using that? You talked a little bit about the whole experience, but once you got to kind of Wesley's video, what was your feeling and then diving in?
I think similar to what Jade said, I felt like Adobe Express was very, very user friendly. And I felt like honestly, like you can figure everything out on your own, even if like the tutorial didn't specifically touch on like this one very specific aspect, like you can figure it out. There is just a huge toolbar with like so many options to really make anything you create your own. I think my favorite aspect of Adobe Express was definitely like the bank of pictures and logos and icons and things like that. I love that a lot. And I think there was just so much variety and like so many options. And a lot of it was free. I think more than like other platforms, which I think is really important to note actually. But I think similar to Jade, like I think using Canva definitely helps with being able to like navigate platforms like these. But I think with Adobe Express and also kind of having the template of that specific flyer, that example was really helpful to understand exactly where we could go with this as someone who's maybe a little bit less creative slash design inclined. But I think with the tools that Adobe Express already has like preloaded in, I think anything you make is going to really turn out super, super unique and creative.
I absolutely love how much you guys are loving Adobe Express. Obviously, we love Adobe Express. Again, and Sonali actually mentioned that this curriculum, Adobe Express, is free for all students and educators. Additionally, this curriculum is free because of the amazing partnership with Adobe that we've had. And so that's why this Basics of Branding is free for any educator, for any student, for any after-school program. So really excited. You'll probably be seeing on the left-hand side of your screen a QR code where you can check it out. It's also at build.org/fambiz-adobe. So please check it out. Even if you are just creating an account to check it out and share with other educators, we encourage it. And yes, so what do you guys think? Are you going to use these branding skills that you've gained from the curriculum, also from the co-design experience in general? But what do you think? Does this branding, not only the Adobe Express, but your personal branding, also the branding of the knowledge-based branding of the logos and understanding marketing terms. And then finally, yes, like the design aspects that you learned from Adobe Express. Which one of these talents or passions do you think you might dive into later or might be useful for you in real life? And I'll start with Jade.
Yes, I feel like Adobe's just the whole platform, I definitely can use it now. And then the course we took, I'm definitely applying that to my film work because it's good to reflect on what you're putting out to the world as well. So it gave me a time to like sit down and think about that. So I honestly I was thinking about that just as I would think about like making my own brand because my filming is my brand technically, is what I'm putting out and like the vibes I'm bringing to the world and what I'm showing, who I want to be known as, who I want to be seen as. So I took it as that. It was like really good self-reflection for me personally for like the film industry. And then I will be using the software actually for like classes and stuff because we do a lot of like projects where it's like, oh, like make a 1950s ad or something that they made back then. So it's like, it was a really good platform to use for that because like Sonali said, it was a lot of things that were free that would not be free on other platforms that I would, really would be needing to use, honestly. So yeah, I will definitely be applying it during school and college now.
Amazing. And Jade, you have such a creative career as well. So I feel like jumping in with film, it's just going to be amazing. You already use Adobe Premiere Pro, and now you're diving into your Adobe suite.
Yes.
And Sonali, what do you think? Using branding in your future or just in the work life balance?
Yeah, I think I use it a little bit differently than Jade. I would probably use it more for like personal branding purposes. I think, like I mentioned, I can see myself using it in like professional settings as well, though. With the career that I'm going into, I think design is still fairly important. because I use a lot of PowerPoint, honestly, and I think you can really translate the things you make in Adobe Express over to PowerPoint. So I can see it like twofold, very much personal branding. What exactly do I want to convey about myself, and how can I really incorporate that into the way I carry myself? And I think I can also see it more so in a professional setting in my career of being able to design the best and most visually pleasing things possible. But like Jade mentioned, like something that is unique about it is the fact that it's very much more free than any other platform. And so definitely feel like I am going to lean off of Canva a little bit more and go to Adobe Express, because even for small things like anything in like a class project or even creating something like a PowerPoint or like a slideshow, some sort of presentation, it would definitely be helpful to use Adobe Express.
Yeah, incredible. And I know that I know it sounds like you guys are becoming not as much a Canva fan and moving on to Adobe Express, which we love because we love our partners at Adobe as well. So I would like to bring us back to the basics of branding with Adobe. Thank you so much. I mean, we can dive back into this, but again, this is available to all students, all teachers nationwide. I do want to say that we are actually having a competition that we are launching just next week for nationally for the basics of branding with Adobe. So Sonali and Jade, I hope you do put one of your ads or your logos or your flyers in for the competition. And this will have a lot of different prizes. We'll have recognition nationwide. It'll go on for about 2 months, and we're asking all students to submit an ad, logo, or flyer for their cookie company, and the top ones will win prizes. So we're super excited. We'll be releasing a lot of information on social as well as emails, so keep your eyes open for that. I do want to go back to kind of co-design. Sonali, talk to my experts here, Sonali and Jade, and just sit and think about, I wanted to ask, what do you think, why is it so important in co-design? So you were just part of this amazing experience, really giving that student or that youth voice to this curriculum. Why do you think it's so important for to have that youth voice when designing curriculum or getting input, whether it's like companies or a new product? I know that you both have been in multiple experiences. So feel free to speak to that, maybe not just to the basics of branding with Adobe experience, but why do you think it's so important to have youth voice in co-designing products or curriculum? And Sonali, I'll actually start with you this time.
Okay, great. I'm going to go back to the word that I said that I would repeat a bunch during this session, but perspective. Student perspective is very, very important, especially when you're building things targeted towards students, right? I feel like in my experience, and I'm sure a lot of students out there can relate, we've definitely used our fair share of tools to the classroom. I know they're like ever evolving, and the tools I have in elementary school definitely not what I used to have, but they're ever evolving. And I think that there are very key like problems that I think students and frustrations that students have with some of the tools out there. And I think that's why student perspective is so important. I've been a part of a ton of these co-designing fellowships, and I think it's amazing that companies really come to us and they want to hear a perspective and they want to see kind of a prototype or idea gen. They want us to use our co-designing process and our human-centered approach. And I think that's an amazing thing. I think for me, I'll touch back on the experience that I shared earlier, being able to go to convention and share that process of co-designing actively with teachers and administrators. I think then I really saw that our perspective truly matters. We had a very interactive experience where we kind of put on the wall some of the problems that teachers were facing in their schools. And then we went through this co-designing process and we worked in groups to really find solutions to these problems on the board. And I think being one of the few students in that room and actually being the youngest student in the entire convention was an incredibly important perspective because I am much closer to it than I think teachers and administrators are. And I think companies are much broader when it comes to the products that they're developing. And I think that's why it's so important, is because potentially like me and other students have used something similar. Me and other students know exactly what our frustrations are with what we currently use. Me and other students know exactly what needs that we have through learning that aren't really being met. And I think because of that, it's better to be able to kind of tweak these ideas and lessons and whatnot through co-designing with our perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I seriously, I think that you're completely correct, and I'm surprised that not more companies aren't using co-design in their or human-centered design in their creation. And one thing I would say is that Build actually has a playbook. It's called the Youth Fellowship Playbook, and it is for companies to do exactly what Sonali is talking about, which is so important, which is co-designing with youth. It's on our site on build.org. You can check it out. Completely free for corporations to basically better design, whether it's a product or a curriculum or even just an entire organization or a project. Any of this, working with youth to make these products better. So definitely check it out. And I want to hear also from Jade your thoughts on just the importance of co-design.
I think co-design itself is very important, and we are the voice, and we are the youth, and we are the change we want to see within our schooling systems. So it's very important to get information from students while they are in school now, because then you can help other students that are incoming into high school, middle school, wherever the grades align. But I feel like it's really important to know where the system is failing and where the system is helping, like what's working, what's not. Where is it working? Where is it not working? Because we're hearing from all these different students with different backgrounds. Like, for instance, I did go to a charter school in middle school, and I learned more in middle school than I did in high school, which is crazy. And I just feel like that's insane. And I just feel like there's things that Build has and is trying to do that can help the system in public schools, for instance. So I just think, like what Sonali said, it's just like, it's really important to just hear what we're saying and overall just do something about it and not just letting students suffer in school.
And Jade, can you tell me, Sonali was talking a little bit about some of her other experience of co-design. Can you tell me a little bit? I know you've had 3 years of co-designing with different products, some that you can't even speak about, secret products, but can you tell me about some of those experiences and the variety of them, not just looking at a curriculum like basics of branding with Adobe, but some of those other experiences?
Yeah, I remember an experience where we did a lot talking about math and like how math is like, and like how word problems are in the schooling systems, like having culture in the math word problems like would help students like be more engaged in it. So I feel like that was very important because I've never looked at it like that, but just seeing that, it's like, wow, maybe like if we would have got that, like maybe more people would be passing, maybe like more people would be in tune with the question if it related to them, which is amazing to like think about, because I never thought about how much the equations itself could impact how we reciprocate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree completely. And Sonali, was there any other, I know you talked a little bit about some of your other experiences, but any other co-design experiences you wanted to mention that were specifically stood out?
I do remember, I think I'm remembering my first one. We did like a slide, and we basically like got the percentages from different I don't remember the question, but we like got to do some research and then like put out the percentages and like sent it over to the build workers. And I feel like that was fun because we got to do our own research and like learn about what's going on in our year, of our year of youthness, like what's going on. And we got to like really see it and see it, what everyone else researched. So I think that was really fun overall. Just doing your own research and just learning about what's going on in the world, because you don't really get that chance in school. Like no one's like, oh, what's the decline in ELA right now? So I think it's really cool to know like that your education is important and it pushes you to want to do better, because it's like, I don't want to be part of that percentage that's failing. So like, let's do something to make us want to learn, do better.
Yeah, I think JD bringing up also just the real life, like bringing in real life perspectives and not just something that's useful in the classroom. That's something that is top of mind when we're doing co-design and also just the build experiences in general. So Sonali, and just wanted to hear, was there any other co-design experiences that came to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think one that comes to mind is I do remember once we kind of tested out this product that Carnegie Learning was developing. It was sort of this Mad Libs version of like an AI chat, which would basically allow students to like solve problems, but it'd be a little bit more interactive using like this AI chat feature. And the AI could really help guide the students if they got something wrong or they needed like further explanation. It was a lot more customizable. And I think that's definitely a co-designing experience that stands out to me, because I feel like a trend that we're seeing in education and ed tech a lot is greater personalized learning opportunities, because that is, every student learns differently. And I think that is also goes into why co-designing is so important. Like I mentioned, I come from a different background than some of the other fellows in Build, and those perspectives are important to really ensure that everyone learns and everyone's needs when they're learning, and everyone who learns in a different way is being able to get that and get what they need. And so I think the experience really stood out to me, because like there are companies out there who are really incorporating AI, who are incorporating this personalized learning trend. And as a youth, like co-designing this, I am literally helping and being on those front lines of this changing industry.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, you guys are the ones on the front lines of this changing industry, which that's why you're on the live stream today. Heroes of the front lines of co-design for you, with you. So, and I would love to hear like just you speaking directly. I mean, again, being these change makers, speak directly to, why should corporations do co-design? If you were speaking to larger companies that maybe are thinking about getting a youth voice in the boardrooms, in the meetings, and designing either curriculum or projects. Why should these companies, if you were speaking directly to them, what would you kind of say to them? And I'll start with Sonali this time.
Yeah, I think I'm like a business major, I guess, to more of like a business perspective. Something that comes to mind first is like companies are creating these products like with the target market in mind, and these target market are students, right? And the more helpful, the stronger, the better your product is, the more students are going to use it. And that's ultimately the goal here, right? Is you want people to use these new products that you're creating. You want as many people as possible to use these new products. And I think being able to make it as successful as possible and make sure that it really reaches the specific target audience that you want is really important. And I guess going on to that from another perspective, the reason students' voices are so important when you're really designing these products from the ground up is to be able to make sure that it better addresses students' needs. I can quite literally, and I'm sure Jade relates to this, I can quite literally remember the exact tools and websites we used to use in school that I hated, and I can remember exactly what was wrong with them. And I think those are problems that me and every other student around me were able to identify super easily, and yet this huge problem is being overlooked when you actually have the product and you're like designing the product. And so I think it's great that I know I've worked with companies who kind of come to students either at the beginning portion, more on the idea gen portion, and also kind of towards the end after they built that prototype, and you get to try that prototype out, like this lesson with Adobe Express. And so I think incorporating students' perspective is really important in every single step of designing a product to really make sure it's as successful as possible and that students feel encouraged and happy to use what you're putting out there, because ultimately these tools are not meant to like these tools have meaning behind them. They're not just being created for fun. There's a specific problem out there that this tool is trying to address. And so we need to make sure as students and as companies out there, these students feel that their problem and the goal of this tool is truly being met.
Well, Sonali, you were definitely speaking right to those corporations, and I absolutely love that. I think you convinced them all right now. But and again, I think the biggest thing is for those corporations, they don't need to do it alone. We have a tool for them to use. Again, build.org/playbook is the Youth Fellowship Playbook. It not only goes into, how to design with co-students, it talks about how to recruit your those youth for adopting a co-design session, talks about the session planning with that specific product or project, building relationships with the youth, implementation, and finally evaluation. So it goes through everything, and that is completely free for corporations to use. You can also contact Build, our program managers and directors to help walk you through that as well. So again, that's build.org/playbook, a really amazing tool. And Jade, can you speak a little bit to those corporations? Why do you think why do they need that youth voice?
Yes. So for you big corporations out there, you need our youth voices, because at the end of the day, we are the ones who are going to help your user experience, because we are the users. And we will let you know there's kids in the high school, they will complain all day, every day. So the more they complain, the more people aren't going to want to use your stuff. And also, we will strengthen your brand identity, which is the whole point. Like, what do you want to put out there? What do you want us to gain from your resource? So having us speak up and tell you what's wrong with it will only strengthen it. So it's like, why not? At the end of the day, yeah. Yeah, so now, like you said, just to piggyback off what you said, I feel like I do remember the apps I really did not enjoy using in school. That's why I'm like, if only I can go back in time and say something sooner, that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Jade will keep it real for those corporations. You'll tell it when it's a really bad product. In a nice way, right, Jade? But no, thank you so much. And again, love partnering with the corporations to help them out with co-design. We just have a couple more minutes left. I did want to end, since we did talk a lot about our new curriculum. Again, just launched a couple weeks ago, Builds Basics of Branding with Adobe. Just wanted to, Sonali and Jade, you guys to talk now, not to the corporations, but what would you say to students and educators? What is yours? Why would you suggest using this curriculum and trying it out? Whether you're an educator or a student, what kind of skills would you learn? What do you think the takeaways are? What would you say if you were suggesting to use this curriculum? And Sonali, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like what I would use this curriculum for. I think personal branding, and also being able to use these tools in my future career. And so I think that's really the main point here is for students and educators out there, this is a topic that is really close to everyone. You are literally surrounded by branding every single day, everywhere around you. The way things are marketed towards you, the way you have these really big name brands, and in every single thing that you do, you might buy one brand over another. Why is that? I think it's something that people interact with so much that it's really important to understand the background. And I think beyond that as well, Adobe Express is a tool that could definitely help in so many situations in the classroom. I think everyone uses some point in their education, everyone uses some sort of tool like Adobe Express, like Canva, for example. I'm sure there are others out there, like there are your basic Google Slides or like PowerPoint or whatever, things like that, where you can really design these presentations and other things that you may use these design skills for are going to be inevitable in your lifetime. And I think, like we mentioned with Adobe Express, you have a much larger canvas with the more tools that are free and available specifically for students and educators. And so I think ultimately, the main point I'm trying to make is it's inevitable that that you're surrounded by branding, and it's inevitable that you're going to have to use a tool like Adobe Express. So why not teach it through this curriculum that explains that very clearly and sets you up for success with using Adobe Express and with creating a brand as well?
I love that. Yeah. I love Sonali said, we're surrounded by branding every day, all the time. And, doing this curriculum, you're really understanding that is something that you can also do, whether it's your own personal branding or it's your company's branding or it's a tool that you are going to be using, whether it's in your professional life, your school life, or even your personal life. So love that, Sonali. And Jade, what would you say to either students or educators if they were looking at this type of curriculum?
I would say this curriculum itself will be really good in the classroom. Like, even if you're just introducing the lesson that Adobe has, then you could piggyback off it. Like, hey, let's use Adobe Express to, let's say they read a book and they're like, okay, let's make a flyer for what you think, like a flyer for the book, like promote this book. Or maybe like, what's another one? If you had to, like for ELA class, I'm thinking, if you had to like make up your own book title, like make a book cover or something, you can use Adobe Express. I feel like that would be really fun. It's really engaging, and it gives like students a way to be creative at school, and it's not so limiting. Like, okay, let's just read, write. It's not so boring. Like with Adobe Express, I feel like it really gives students a chance to think outside the box and use other platforms, learn other platforms. So when you get to a higher education, you have more things under your belt, more creativity under your belt, because creativity is used in every single job force, honestly. Like in finance, you can use it to do big pitches, build big pitches for build. Even, in film, in the medical field, to the percentages, it's a great platform for all that. All students should learn earlier.
Jade, I think you just converted all of our viewers to Adobe Express. Personally, we absolutely have loved partnering with Adobe. We've absolutely loved introducing our students and all of our educators to Adobe Express. For educators out there and students, remember that Adobe Express is completely free for all educators and students. And so we're super excited to have a curriculum that really launches people right into the Adobe Express platform. Again, our curriculum here, builds basics of branding with Adobe, is completely free thanks to Adobe's partnership on this specific curriculum. We're hoping to partner with Adobe for more products, amazing products like this. We are reaching our time. I want to just first of all thank you, Sonali and Jade, for your time. This has been such an amazing conversation, really getting your insights on not just code design, but also the basics of branding and your feedback and really your overall life story and passions. It's been so amazing meeting you, and our viewers are so excited to meet you as well. So thank you both. Any last words for today from either of you?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed what we said. Hope you guys are encouraged to use Adobe Express and log onto the curriculum. It's really amazing. It's a great platform. You guys will love it.
Yeah, I'm going to echo everything Jay just said. I'm going to say, hopefully you guys understand why we do co-design and build, the importance of it, and why Jade and I are the best for every single company out there. But it was fantastic being able to speak to you guys. Hopefully you guys are walking away wanting to use Adobe Express and wanting to use co-design.
Incredible, Sonali. And Sonali and Jade, thank you again to all our viewers. These programs would not be made possible without amazing funds and donations from all the viewers like you. Sonali and Jade are part of our alumni of our program of entrepreneurship, our main core program, also part of our fellowship. All of this would not be possible without your amazing donations. So please scan the QR code to the left if possible. Additionally, partnerships like this one with Adobe, we are open to other partnerships like that, creating more curriculum with other corporations or also more with Adobe. So super excited for creating more curriculum co-designed with students, amazing students like Sonali and Jade. And lastly, to our corporations, I'll just echo Sonali and Jade. Please check out our Youth Fellowship Playbook. It has amazing resources for how you can co-design and really get that youth voice into your products, especially products that are for youth. So Sonali and Jade said it better than I could even say. And I really appreciate my amazing guests today. And tune in again in 2 weeks for our bi-weekly, every other week live stream for Build. We will be having more conversations in March with some of our alumni from California. And also we will be talking to some of our co-design program directors that were behind Adobe, and also some of our directors that have been going to South by Southwest Education Conference. So super excited for that in March. But for now, February, thank you, Sonali and Jade, for wrapping up our month, and we will see you next time.
Mentorship is important, and it's truly really, really important here in the District of Columbia. You know, when I was living in Chicago, I realized that there were a lot of Black folk who never made it to like downtown Chicago or the office buildings in Chicago, right? So they never had that experience, right? Some of that is similar here in DC in that some of our students in Ward 7 and 8 don't cross over into Northwest DC. So the mentorship is truly, truly important because, you know, as a student here, you're not building that social capital. And now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, we expect you to cross over this bridge and then interview with folks that you might never had the experience with, right? And so what a mentor allows our students to do is to learn to present themselves, also grow their own familiarity with talking to someone who might and more than likely look much different from them when they're being interviewed. And so that piece is key here.
The mentors and the workshop leaders, people who participated in our roundtables this summer, they were not shy about sharing their own personal testimonies and their stories and their challenges and their adversities and their hardships and what they had to push through in